SOFI stock. Now, Anthony Noto, the CEO of SOFI, just had a virtual, I guess what you want to call fireside chat. I've always, wondered the concept of a fireside chat. It's like there's a fireside or, like a chimney thing burning and people sit next to each other and there's like a chat they have. It's always been an interesting term to me. He had a fireside chat with the VP of Global Research at Bank of America. And he said some really interesting things. Now, here's the tweet that I want to show, and then I want to give some of my comments on what Anthony Noto has been saying. So this is from Brad. We actually had him on the SoFi Weekly podcast. Great Twitter account at Stock Market Nerd. He says, so this is what Anthony Noto said yesterday in this fireside chat. Importantly, growth in deposits remains strong today. We expect absolute increase in deposits, to be equal or greater than the last few quarters. So, and this is what we were talking about in the SoFi Weekly podcast, but we'll go deeper in a second. He added that the quality of the newest deposits is in line to or above the last few quarters. And he says, just FYI, this represents 32% sequential deposit growth at a minimum to meet or eclipse 9.6 billion. So the reason Brad is saying that is because if deposit growth is good and or better, then that means that they're growing deposits 32% year over year. In the last earnings, they had $7.3 billion in deposits. If that is the case, then that means we're likely going to be able to get $9.6 billion in deposits this year, which is going to be really, really good. Now, why is this important? The banking collapse with Silicon Valley Bank basically left a lot of people wondering about neobanks. Neobanks are banks that are essentially, banks that are not brick and mortar stores. They're not Bank of America. They're not Chase. They're not JP Morgan. They are banks that are going into the online world. Why is SoFi an exciting opportunity? Well, not only is it almost trading at a price to book of 1, not only is it growing at 50% year over year, not only have they totally reformed the segmentations of their business from becoming a student loan financing company to a company that acquired Galileo, which is essentially becoming an AWS of fintech. And I'll get a little bit deeper into that in a nutshell. And they're growing their personal loan business and they're growing their member. They're adding more members that are ultimately becoming, members of their bank because they got a bank charter last year. But they are enabling an entire new way to think of financing. And that entire new way of thinking of financing is not having a actual bank branch, not having to worry about overdraft fees, not having to worry about the bureaucracy that exists within working within a bank. And as a result of that, SoFi to me has become an incredibly attractive opportunity at $5, $4, $6, because it's like, they're doing a lot of different things and they've shown that they've been able to grow. Now, why is this piece of deposit news very important? When Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, even though these neobanks have all these things going for them, which I just talked about in terms of like they're super cool, they're exciting, like getting your money back, no overdraft fees, they're still susceptible to all of the problems that regional banks have. If FRC, First Republic Bank in San Francisco, can't stay, let's call them, can't get people to be excited about the bank or can't get people to not take their money out of the bank after getting $30 billion in deposits from JP Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, etc. Each of these 6 banks gave them $5 billion just to be able to make sure that bank doesn't have a bank run and to be able to tell customers, hey, this bank is fine. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. If that bank can't stay solvent during this time, why should SoFi stay solvent? Why should any of these online banks that do not have, I think FRC had something like $200-300 billion in net assets that they had under custody. SoFi has, maybe 10-15 billion, and it's a hair of what FRC has. It's a hair of what Silicon Valley Bank has. So if those banks can collapse, if Signature Bank of New York can collapse, why can't SoFi collapse? And I think the reason Noto saying this yesterday is so important and it's so reassuring to shareholders is because there is actual brand loyalty to a bank like SoFi. Like there's quite literally people that want this company to succeed, that want this bank to succeed, that want to see the demise of the big 4 banks, and not necessarily those banks failing, but those banks not having the stranglehold they have over our culture. It's the same reason to me why DuckDuckGo, the private search engine browser, has 1.1 billion visits a month. It's not as big as Google. Google gets 88 billion visits a month, but still, to put up a billion visits, which means like probably hundreds of millions of searches every month or maybe even every day, That means that you have offered something that has customer loyalty and that people want to use over Google. And what are you offering? You're offering privacy. You're offering something that is fundamentally differentiated, which is why people enjoy using your product. To me, I think SoFi is doing the exact same thing. And I bought SoFi back in September 2021 when I put that, or 2022 when I put that video on my channel. If I bought in 2021, I would be bag holding right now. So thankfully I didn't. Palantir, on the other hand, well, I bought it because of this Galileo product, this AWS of fintech. To me, I was incredibly excited that, okay, they are building the backend infrastructure for payment APIs, application programming interfaces. So Robinhood, their debit card, when you swipe that, and I use Robinhood every day, SoFi gets paid. Just like when you watch Netflix or when you listen to something on Spotify, AWS gets a little bit of money because all those services are running on AWS as the backend, which is why Galileo, they paid $1.1 billion for it in April 2020, was really exciting for me. And I like platform SaaS-based high margin businesses, which is why I got excited about it. The member growth and the loan business and the idea that you have all of these hundreds of, now they have, I think, 5.3 million members. They just added 479,000 members last quarter. The fact that 479,000 people are signing up for a bank and transferring their money from Bank of America and JP Morgan all the way to SoFi, I would do the same, except SoFi doesn't accept business accounts yet. So that's why I haven't been able to transfer my money. Is incredible to me. It means there's a cultural shift, and that cultural shift has a market cap of $5 billion. The other reason this is exciting to me is because if deposits are growing, that means not only are people loyal to the bank, but that also means that people are deciding, hey, if we're going to take our money out of these regional banks, what can we put it into that not only gets us a good return, but also feels more safe? And if SoFi is the option that, and this is objective, this is like black or white. If people are moving their money from here and they're putting it into SoFi, SoFi is getting more deposits, which means we might get to $9 billion in deposits this year. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It means more people trust SoFi. They're putting their money in SoFi. If SoFi has more money, they can do more things with that money. And at a $5 billion market cap, I know banks are not exciting, but this is one of those banks that has a lot of different segmentations to it. Student loans haven't even come back yet. When that comes back by 2024, which most likely it will, or the end of 2023, that's another additional set to the business. It becomes really excited, you know, and we were speculating over the past couple of weeks in SoFi Weekly, will deposits get hurt? Will deposits suffer? And as Anthony Noto said, the people that are even get approved for a loan have to have incredibly high FICO scores and a really good history of paying those loans back. So the delinquency rate is at an all-time low, or likely just not going to happen, at least for their members. For other banks, it's different. And the people coming to SoFi and putting their money in that bank want to be there, which means they're a little bit more financially literate than the average people in the population, which means the types of money they're going to get and the types of people that they're going to get that are going to be able to use their platform in a meaningful way and have this one-stop shop for financial services is actually going to be a pretty smart group of people. And that's why SoFi is incredibly exciting. So Anthony Noto basically saying deposits are going up. By the way, they're paying $1,000 per medical loan referral student, which means if you can afford to pay $1,000 to get someone's medical loans onto SoFi, that means that not only is that profitable for you, but you have the money to be able to pay that. So just their pure cost per acquisition costs staying as high as they are proves to us that they're not running it at a loss. They're doing it because they actually are able to make money on them profitably. And deposits growing makes SoFi a lot more exciting for me. We'll talk more about this on SoFi Weekly. But it seems pretty excited that in this fireside chat, Anthony Noto dropped some hot fire out of his mouth that deposits are increasing, even amidst a Silicon Valley bank collapse.